What's up, guys? Brad and Deb here, and we've been giving you guys weekly updates on our house, except for last week because there's no update. But we're going to give you a little sneak peek later on in the video of something about the house. But what we wanted to talk about today is something that is in the news a lot, or has been in the news a lot, and has directly affected us. And there's been a lot of misinformation out there. So we want to set the record straight, at least as how it pertains to us. Okay, so to begin with, we have a major announcement in this video, but we're going to talk about some things first. And what I want to talk about is there's a lot of misinformation out there about what's going on in the federal government with federal employees. And Deb and I are federal employees, and there is a lot of information out there that says that we're lazy and we don't come to work, and that we're not checking in for work, and that everyone's working remote. And I want to set the record straight on that because that is offensive to us. We've both been working our whole life in the Department of Defense, and we work very hard and we're very proud of our work. So there's one thing that we believe in, or two things we believe in, is God and country. And in that order. And the United States is the longest running democratic social experiment in the history of mankind. And we love our country, and we believe in our country, and we believe in a solid defense for our country. And both of us are part of that. Now, we don't have rifles, and we don't go out, and we're not frontline special operators that are out there, you know, chasing Taliban or ISIS or things like that. But we are a support function for those frontline war fighters. And we went to work every day, me for the Navy, her for the Air Force, for 15 years or more, and not counting my previous military service. And I just don't like to see federal employees just put down out there, because they do work hard. Now, just like any other organization, we're a huge organization, and there are some people that slack. But I think that's everywhere. I mean, we've had people here that are concrete crews, and 3 work hard and 1 slacks, and it ain't the owner. Usually the owner's working hard. So I totally get it that we're not a 100% efficient organization as a federal employee, or the 2 million of us, but most of us work hard. Most of us have been coming to work. And during the pandemic, we had a lot of leeway to keep the mission going, but work from home. And we work from home a lot. I work from home a lot more than Deb, and I'm a manager. And I was able to keep the projects going that were very important to the Navy warfighter. We were able to keep them going by working at home. And we were very accountable for those hours at home, meaning we didn't just check in 3 times a week and tell our boss hi, and then we were gone. We were engaged. We all learned how to use video for video chats. We learned how to use Microsoft Teams and telecons, and a lot of what we do, both of us, is communications for the military. So she does a different type of communication than I do. What my people do was provide communications for Navy ships and their projects. So you can do a lot of that coordination from home. And then we had a return to office regulation, or basically told us we had to return to work a couple of years ago. And then they allowed us to start teleworking a little bit. By a little bit, I mean every single position in my 1,700 person organization was scrutinized to see if it was something that the person could do, that they could telework. Now, if they were a hands-on worker that was turning wrenches, or doing things that required them to be at work or work with classified information, then they came to work every day. And then I, as a manager, I had to look at people as part of my job and go, does their job allow them to work at home? So regardless of whether the person wanted to work from home or not, there were times we had to make the tough call of, sorry, you can't work from home. And you can't work from home because you can't find childcare, because that's not the reason to allow you to work from home. So we just wanted to, before we got into how this affected us personally, we just wanted to set the record straight that most federal workers, at least the ones we've been associated with, are hardworking, dedicated to the mission. laser focused and giving you a very good return on your investment on your tax dollars. Now, you look at the Department of Energy and you look at USAID and the things that we're doing and creating transsexual cartoons for foreign nations, and that's a waste of taxpayers' money. And government never gets smaller, it always gets bigger. So it's good that the administration is looking to make cuts to save you guys money. And are they doing it surgically versus using a sledgehammer instead of a sharp knife? Yeah, maybe they are. But if they don't do something, the country was going bankrupt. So that's me on my soapbox, defending the federal workers, but also defending the administration that's out there trying to do the best for you as a taxpayer. And when you're this big as the federal government is, and especially federal employees at 2.2 million, you're going to make mistakes. And there's going to be people that lose their job, and they're real people. And I feel for them, whether you work for USAID, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, Department of Homeland Security, and you lost your job. I mean, you're a real person. And I feel for you. And maybe in some ways it wasn't fair. I mean, you have a mortgage, you have kids to feed. And so I just want people to have a little bit of empathy for what federal workers are going through. We're not perfect, but the world isn't perfect either. So I'm going to turn it over to Deb to see if she didn't know this. We were walking over here and I said, do you know what you're going to say? And she said, I don't have a script. I'm an unscripted person. So she had no idea that I was going to get on my soapbox here a little bit, but I wanted to kind of lay the foundation for what we believe in, and that we really love this country, and that we know that some changes need to be made, and they're difficult right now, but don't look down on federal employees. As a whole, they're great people just like you all are. So
I echo everything that he said, of course. I've been working for the federal government for 28 years, and I have always said the people that I work with and for are above par and just phenomenal people. Like he said, every now and then you get somebody that doesn't work as hard, but truly the caliber of people that we work with is just astronomical, and I'm very, very blessed to have worked with these people for 28 years. And again, the other thing I must echo is that if you lost your job and you're a hard worker, we sympathize. I pray for you. I literally pray for you. I know that this hasn't been smooth for a lot of people, and our heart goes out to them, but the country as a whole, we hope will come together, and we hope it will be better and we hope it'll be better in the long run. So,
and I think it will be. I mean, whenever you have massive changes like this, there's going to be pain somewhere. And one of the big benefits of being a federal employee was stability. And right now there's a lot of uncertainty out there. So just have some empathy and recognize that they're real Americans too, just like you are, just like we are. And let's try and unite and just get through this, because to some extent it needed to be done. But
that's true. That's a really good point, uncertainty. And because we do work with a lot of federal workers, there is a lot of fear and uncertainty out there. So again, sympathy, because it's a bad situation to be in, and a lot of people have been in the situation, not even in the federal government, right? Downsizing of corporations and downsizing of factories, and it's scary. So our hearts with you guys, our hearts with federal workers. We just want everybody to get along.
So to bring it back to how does that affect us? So we, working within the federal government, don't really have insider information, meaning we were on Google and on the news hitting refresh because we knew changes were coming, and we didn't know how they would directly impact us as Deb and Brad and Piney Grove. So to back it up, if you've come to this video and you don't know us, you haven't been following us, 7 years ago or so, we knew that we were coming to the end of our career, and we are not sedentary people, so we wanted to stay active, and we didn't want to just stay in the community that we live in, which is a nice community, and just, go to breakfast and go to lunch every day and watch TV. We knew that we wanted more out of life. We're not big travelers, so we didn't want to travel the world. We've both been associated with the military throughout our life, so we've done a lot of traveling, seen a lot of the world. And so we started thinking about what we were going to do. We started planning. A lot of people don't plan, and they should. So this is kind of a call out, plan your retirement, or else I have folks that work for me that I think are going to literally work until their last day on earth. And we didn't want that. We feel that, you work to live, you don't live to work, and at some point you call it quits. But you got to prepare for that. No one's going to prepare for that for you, and Social Security isn't enough, even if it exists in a few years. So we started thinking about what we were going to do, and we looked at a piece of land when one of her friend's husbands passed away, and looked at a nice piece of property, but it was down a dirt road, but it was a beautiful piece of property. I'm like, well, could we see ourselves living in that type of rural environment? I grew up that way. She didn't, but I've been away from it for almost 40 years. We looked for land. We found Piney Grove, and we have 400 and some videos showing how we took Piney Grove from a dense, thick pine plantation, basically pines planted in a row to be harvested 20 years from now, and we've turned it into what you see here. And we've been building this house this year, and our plan was in 2025 to sell our house in the city, let's call it. It's a small town, and move out here to Piney Grove. And our house wasn't selling, so our timeline was pushing. So we said in 2024, we will not work a day for the federal government in 2025 because we're going to retire. Well, January came, our house didn't sell. February came, our house didn't sell. And that's where we are now. Our house is on the market. It's getting a little action, but it's not selling. We got a really low ball offer, and we turned it down. It just we feel that God will bring us a buyer at the time that a buyer needs to be there, and we just put it in His hands. We don't fret about it. So anyway, how does this affect us? Well, on January 28th, or maybe a week before that, there was an announcement that the federal government was going to make a offer that had never been offered before in the history of federal government, or OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, which is our big boss in the sky. And people were skeptical, because here comes Elon Musk. He doesn't know anything about the federal government, and he's saying, hey, take 8 months off and resign. And so, Deb, why don't you walk them through, like, when we heard about it until, like, we thought, like, in a week we were going to be gone, but it didn't happen that way, and kind of your reservations and what your folks were saying at work when they heard about it.
Well, back up just a little bit. The interesting thing is, like he said, we were going back and forth on when we were going to retire, right? Initially, we had hoped to retire December 31st of 24. So everything after that was because of the house, and this house and our other house. So we had been going back and forth in the evening, and you may or may not remember this. Brad sent me a text, and he said, we need to just go ahead and plan our retirement. And I said, do you want to go ahead and start the paperwork? And this is texting back and forth. He said, no, not yet. And I think it was that night. If it wasn't that night, it was the very next day that we're sitting in our den.
Keeping an eye on Bella.
Yeah, Bella's off in the woods. It was the very next day or that night that Brad said, you're not going to believe this, and he had seen this program offer. So we both thought, okay, we've given it to God, right? We've said, okay, Lord, we know that you're going to have us retire and sell our house when need be. And to us, this program, and initially they said by February 6th, you had to resign by hitting reply on this email that everybody was going to get. You had to hit resign, and that's all you do. You hit reply, you hit resign, and you're done working. And you follow all the stipulations, and there'll be a contract. So I texted my boss that night, and I said, listen, I don't know if you've heard about this, but if this email hits my inbox, I'm going to hit resign because the timing. We're in Panama City. Brad's mom's here. She's got her issues. So we need to be closer. Well, we both had the email.
Like Deb said, the email simply said, it was called Fork in the Road, just like Elon Musk used for Tesla. We had a tab at the OPM website that was called Fork. And when you click that tab, it outlined in general terms the conditions. So it wasn't even like, everything in the government is very regulated. And, for you to do a simple thing, there's going to be a 12-page regulation on, how to clean a bathroom. And I'm almost not joking there. But this was very vague. It was like you got an email, it pointed you to this website, and it said simply reply with one word, resign. Not your name, not anything, and it had to come from your government email because we had government emails in our name. And it's scary because they put a clock on it. They said you only have a few days to figure this out, and we're like, this is all of a sudden. People are like, don't trust it. The government, they just want to get rid of you. And once you resign, how are you going to pull that back? And we were thinking, there's nothing guaranteed in life, right? There are rules that dictate, or regulations, laws, I guess, that dictate after you've done a certain amount of time with the federal government, you can retire. And we had both met that, but that doesn't mean you have to retire. So what this was a big old carrot in front of us. It was a carrot to entice us to go out the door. But if you, like anything, think something's too good to be true, there's no guarantees in life. And if you can't trust the federal government and the office of OPM, who dictates everything you've done for 15 years to give you a valid offer, then who can you trust? Because we knew no more than you guys knew if you were watching the news. Everything that we got access to, you had access to. It wasn't like we were getting secret information. Our local HR, and I think yours as well, had no idea. You asked them questions. Is this valid? Can we do that? They had no idea. And so that's a little unsettling, and we talked about it. And she's like, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? And we were not the first ones to hit resign, but I bet we were in the top 100. So like 80,000 people hit resign. We were one of the first ones. So we thought about it for a day, and we said, you know what? If they're going to default on this, they're going to default on bonds. They're going to default on our retirement in general. We trust our federal government enough that they're not going to lie to us. So we hit send. Actually, that night, because we could work from home still, she was checking her email and hitting refresh. And she's like, did you get it? Did you get it? So we're going back and forth. So we got the email and we hit resign. And we thought literally the next week, it was like on a Friday, we thought by the next Friday we were gone.
February 6th was the deadline. The initial deadline was that you had to have replied to that email February 6th, and the offer was closed. It was like a one good deal for you. If you want to do this and take advantage of it, you have till February 6th.
But it was also that if you did it, that a week on February 7th, you were gone.
Yeah,
like
you're
pack
done.
your office,
Yeah.
you were gone. So we're sitting here thinking, okay, we hit resign. I guess we're done next week, but we weren't done next week because just like everything in federal government, there is going to be some red tape, and I think in Boston, someone opened up a federal lawsuit and said, this is illegal. You can't do that, OPM. You can't just throw this out there. And we were mad because we're thinking, okay, no one forced us to hit resign. And now we got someone creating a lawsuit saying that this wasn't put out properly. Well, then don't apply for it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're big boys and girls. And if you didn't hit resign, it was status quo for you. So why is the union suing to not let me resign? I've taken the risk. And so we were pretty salty about that, but then that worked out.
It did work out. Like I said, it was completely voluntary. And I talked to people that I work with. I was like, hey, what do you think about that? And a lot of people I work with were like, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And so a friend of mine, I said, hey, because this person was going to resign in October.
Going to retire.
I'm sorry, yes, this person was going to retire in October. And I said, are you going to do this? And she said, no, I don't trust it. And I said, well, have you read the documentation? And again, the documentation wasn't a lot, but it's pretty straightforward. It was questions and answers. Can I resign and still retire? Yes. Will I get this? Yes. Will I get this? No. Yes. Right. Mm-hmm. So the questions and answers were precise. The procedure was ridiculously simple. And she said she didn't trust it. So she came back to my office and we looked at some of the documentation. She's like, yeah, I don't know. And she didn't do it. So she chose, and again, voluntary. Nobody made it. There was literally no pressure. There was an email. It was a very simple email. You either did it or you didn't do it. So we did it.
Yeah, so I went out on YouTube actually this morning to see if there was anything out there like what we're telling you, and there's not. There's a lot of people that are have channels, or a lot of businesses that have channels that kind of guide the federal worker in their benefits and stuff like that, and they talked a lot about this, which is called the Deferred Resignation Program. We call it the DERP because, well, it sounds cool, but
Or silly.
yeah, or silly, but nobody that we've seen, general everyday people who are federal employees, have kind of let y'all know, if you're not federal employees, what really happened. And it was a little bit chaotic. It was a little bit unsettling, but we hit, at work they call it, did you hit the red button? Hey Brad, did you hit the red button? And we ejected, right? We hit the red button. So the thing that was unclear from most organizations was, how are we going to adjust to this? Because in my organization, we lost 80 people at a 1,700, and that's a lot of people. And some of them were managers, and they weren't going to allow them to backfill them because the whole idea is to downsize the organization. So that's how it went down. So how does that work for us out here? Well, like Deb said, we were planning on retiring in 2025, and I had a calendar that started at December 31st of last year. Well, actually, it was going to be October 21st of last year, and it just kept creeping forward, and we had a plan, but we weren't executing the plan. This made us execute our plan. We hit the go button, but we didn't retire on February 7th because both of our organizations, this was at a very high level that it was approved, right? It was approved at the Trump administration OPM level. It wasn't approved down at my level, and there was many levels from the Navy on down to me, right? I didn't work directly for the Department of Navy. I worked for a organization underneath the Department of Navy, and same with her. So each one of those organizations had to have a say in the contract. So finally, the whole time I'm getting tons of information. I'm getting daily emails. My leadership was awesome in this regard, from not only my leadership locally, but 2 levels above him. We were getting daily emails. Hey guys, we've heard this. Hey guys, we've heard this. We haven't heard anything. Deb was getting absolutely nothing. So I knew that I was marching towards a, let's call it a retirement date. I just didn't know exactly what my contract would look like. Meanwhile, on Deb's side, what was happening?
Well, and again, it wasn't our direct organization's fault. I actually work for the state. So the state said from the very beginning, the state said, matter of fact, the morning that I went to work to see if I got the email, I had an email from the state HR department that said, nobody's eligible for this. Nobody gets this. And I thought, how can you say that within 24 hours that everybody that works for the state isn't eligible? So I still resigned and hit send. I thought, what's the worst thing that'll happen, right? They'll tell me no. And I kind of fully expected to be told no. But our local people, they didn't know. They literally didn't know anything more than what I knew. He was sharing his information, what the Navy was telling. So I was getting more information from the Navy than I was getting from the state. The state sent out, I think, I'm not exaggerating. I think during this whole process, the state sent out 3 emails. And again, they were trying to work to get everybody exempt. They didn't want anybody to be able to take it. There were, I think, less than 500 federal employees that work for the state of Florida. I think they were afraid of a mass exodus. Well, there wasn't. Actually, in the entire state of Florida, only 20 people took advantage of
Department of Defense.
Department of Defense, excuse me, yes, and the
Within
Department of
this-
Defense.
yeah.
Within the state of Florida, right. So at where he's at the Navy base, 80 people took it. In the Department of Defense, for the state of Florida, only 20 people took it. So there wasn't a mass exodus. But I just wasn't getting information. And meanwhile, he is. So we know he's got it.
We had to adjust a little because we didn't want the camera to overheat. It's already 80-some degrees here. But so you didn't know anything yet from the state of Florida. So we're into that last week where I'm going to be gone on Friday, and What happened
And
for you?
I still we did get an email late one night. A friend of ours texted us and said, "Hey, you guys need to check your email because I think you're whether you were accepted or denied official emails in your inbox because her husband had gotten his." So we both grabbed our computers. It was like 8 o'clock at night and logged in, and we had the email that said you were accepted into this program. And that was the first time during this like 4 or 5 week process that I knew that I was eligible. And up to this point, I really didn't think I would. We knew he was going to get it, but I didn't think I was going to get it. So, and the interesting thing is that day I had gotten some unsettling news. So the fact that that night I got this.
Was that your unsettling news?
Yeah, so that day.
Hold on, I'm going to go in close on this. In the last video, Deb mentioned that she had a spot of melanoma and she couldn't show you the cut because it was too gruesome, but it's had a little time to heal. So we'll give you a little break here. I'm going to show you how she's healing.
So they cut me from here to there.
For a little tiny spot.
For a spot the size of a piece of birdseed. So my bad news was I'd gone for a skin check. Like 5 days prior, and it was this weird little spot on my arm, but and they called me that day and said, listen, your biopsy result came back and it was melanoma. And that's a scary word, melanoma. And I was a little bit rattled, but the odd thing is I was rattled about the diagnosis, but I was still okay with it because I just felt at peace with it because I knew God was watching over me. Honestly, I did. But still, melanoma is a scary word. So I found that out about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was a little rattled about it. And they said, it's early stages. It's early stages. It's going to be fine, but it needs to come off. Okay. That night is the night we found out. We got that email. So I was so thankful to the Lord. I was like, he gave me a little bit of a bump in the road, but then he gave me this gift that said, you're going to get to retire early. So that was the first indication I got of that. Well, then I got nothing else. Meanwhile, he's got a checklist. He's got, the Navy was just like, my people still weren't getting any guidance.
My organization actually, because it takes a while to out-process you, my organization set up an expedited out-process, something that normally takes a week to 2 weeks, where you go around to all these offices and make sure you've turned in your classified and you've done this and you've done just all those things. And they made it so simple and so expedited. So I knew Friday was my last day. And Deb, going that week, so Monday through Thursday, I was working all this with my HR. And my HR was awesome and just doing everything to make this as smooth as possible for 80 people. Meanwhile, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday comes. I'm out in 2 days. She's heard nothing. And we're texting each other. And I'm like, anything? Have you heard anything? Wednesday, as of Wednesday, 2 days before walking out the door, she's heard nothing.
I've heard nothing. Well, they kept saying the state. Again, and this was thrown at everybody. I don't fault anybody for it. I totally get it. I'm not slamming anybody. I'm not in HR. I'm really not. Locally or for the state, I'm not. Well, they kept saying, you're going to get a call from HR. And I was like, okay. No call, no call, no call. Well, okay, I'm going to be working next week. Again, I'm not complaining because I know that there's an end date. It's going to work out. I just want the information. So Thursday night, we get a call from our realtor and say, hey, the house is going to be shown Friday morning. Is that okay with you guys? Sure, not a problem. Well, I got Bella. So not a problem. Work is wonderful. Fridays, kind of that particular Friday was going to be light. I took Bella to work with me. And you've seen Bella. She's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, she's not like that very much.
Yeah, that's only because she's been up all day. So I take Bella to work with me. And she was being pretty good, but I kept walking her outside around the building to, keep her energy down, and she loved to meet people. Well, I come back in from one of the walks and my phone rings, and it's the state HR department. And so, yay, I get my phone call. So we're talking and this, that, and the other. And she said, make sure I understand everything and make sure I understand dates and timelines and the DERP and how that will fold into retirement and all this. And absolutely. She said, okay, if you're in agreement with all this, I'm going to send you your contract. I said, okay. I said, so when will my contract start? She said, Monday. So that Friday ended up being my last day. I had I had no idea when I walked in that Friday morning that that would truly be my last day of work. And it was a blessing in many ways, but I'd been there for so long that it was like ripping off the Band-Aid because I get emotional.
Yeah, I figured she would. I mean, they say you spend more time with your work family than more awake hours with your work family than you do with your actual family, because Deb would get up at 5 o'clock, I think leave the house at 6. I would not get up earlier because I didn't have to put makeup on, but I would leave the house and we would work a 9-hour day every day, and sometimes she had to surge. So some of these folks, like during an exercise or a real world event, like during Hurricane Katrina or something, I was still wearing a uniform, but you're working 12 hours a day. So you are literally around people much more than they are around their family. And now you've heard that you're leaving that family.
Well, and not just that, but
with no notice, right?
No notice. So, I mean, and I didn't find out until right before lunch. And again, the organization is wonderful. Matter of fact, the general's executive officer came down and he said, okay, we heard today was your last day. The general wants to recognize you. And I got my dog. So, well, I got my dog, can't take my dog home. But,
want to recognize Bella.
Yeah, he said, oh, he loves dogs, he won't care. But, my bosses that work across base came over, and people that found out came over so I could say goodbye to them. But it was quick, and I went around the building trying to say goodbye, but it was Friday. A lot of people took leave that Friday because it was right before our local spring break. So it was rushed, and it was surreal, but when I look back on it, it was a blessing because it was already emotional. So I literally went from not knowing to, hey, you got it, here's your contract, sign your contract, and you're done, close the business today. So,
and
wow.
Here, you like I had been preparing all week, actually for 2 weeks, taking stuff from my office home. And so on the last day, there was really nothing for me to take home, except for a couple little trinkets I had left in my office drawers. And I had people that were lined up wanting my office because I was the senior manager, so I got to pick my office. So there were people lined up. So my seat probably didn't even get cold before there was someone else in it. And yeah, I'm talking about you, Wayne. And but she, no notice. I mean, she literally grabbed a cardboard box, and you hadn't.
Well, I had packed some stuff because I knew even if I didn't get this program, he was going to be in the program, so I could then set a retirement date, right? Because he was going to be spending a lot of time out here. So then it was, when am I going to retire if I didn't get the DRP program? So I had boxed stuff and a lot of my stuff and been preparing my coworkers and any questions and things like that. So I had been preparing because one way or another I was going to be done, but I really didn't think it was going to be through this program and that fast. So
it seems like DERP has moved on and people didn't know how it went down. So that's exactly how it went down. We both left work that Friday and we were done. We are officially retired. We are full-time YouTubers. I knew we would retire, but until you do it, you don't think you're going to retire, right? Because it's one of those things. We're institutionalized. We've been getting up, going to work, for me, for Air Force, Navy, for 40 years. And she's been associated with the Department of Defense for a long time. So we knew it was coming, but until you walk out the door and you drive off that base and you're like, the next time I come on here, I'm a visitor. I'm no longer an employee. It's weird. It's exciting. It's a little unsettling, and we are now. Well, we're
not unsettled.
We're 3 weeks into it, and we like the first week or two kind of felt more like a vacation. But let's change the scenery a little bit, get into that, and then give them a little sneak peek of the inside of the house.
Let's sneak peek.
So that's our big announcement. That's our big news. We are officially retired. We are out here at Piney Grove full time. We're working on that house. If you haven't seen it before, there is a full playlist below of how we went from scraping the dirt, that dirt there that the house is sitting on. You see it's about 4 foot taller than the driveway. All came from our own property. We dug a pond. And the pond, we need to update y'all on the pond because we got to do a lot of work there. So I call it a pond, but it's kind of a mud hole. Well, we took the dirt from that pond and made that berm up there, or that house site, and we did that a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, right? Whenever we dug the pond. Yeah. And we knew we were going to put our house there, and our house has been being built for, I guess, 5 months now, but there has been no work going on the inside. Everything is scheduled, or was scheduled, but we got our cabinet order. So I'll tell you a little story about the cabinet order. So everything is over budget on that house, and some of it is our fault. And that's because we've done some add-ons. We spent extra money on brickwork. We spent extra money on the garage door opener. We spent extra money on trim. But one of the biggest things was cabinets. I didn't realize cabinets were such a big deal. You have cabinets when you buy a house and you don't think about it. Well, go buy some cabinets and you'll think about it, because the first estimate came in $11,000 over the budget. And the way you build a house is you have an allowance on everything. You have an allowance on flooring. You have an allowance on brickwork. And that's included in the overall cost of the house. Well, if you go above that, that's out of your pocket, so to speak, and you're above budget. Well, we went, I think, 2, if not 3 different cabinet makers, and we couldn't get any of them in budget or even close to budget. The first one was $11,000 over, and that didn't include, I don't think, the hood over the range, maybe. But anyway, it was mind-boggling to us. How could we be 50% over budget? So we found a cabinet maker. We had some experience with those cabinets before, but they don't sell directly to the public. They sell through a dealer, and I don't know how, but they decided to allow us to buy directly from them. And so they messed up the first order. We got 90% of our order correct, and we keep looking down the driveway because we think at any moment a truck's going to come in and bring us the correction to our order. We had to wait 4 weeks for the first order of cabinets to come, so nothing really happened inside the house for 4 weeks. Then the partial order came, and the cabinet installer did what he could. Then he got to a work stoppage because we were missing some cabinets. So now nothing has happened for 3 weeks inside the house.
Because everything hinges on that, right? So everything was stacked up. We had cabinets scheduled, floors scheduled, and then the countertop scheduled. Everything was scheduled when we knew the cabinets were coming. Well, all that's at a stoppage. But when this part of the order comes in, hopefully everything can be stacked back up in a couple weeks.
So what did you learn yesterday about countertops?
So what we learned was that the countertops that we chose were sold because it's taken so long that they had a customer come up and sold it. But you know what? That's going to be a happy blessing, because come to find out, the counters that I chose were leather treated, and I don't want it all leather treated. I would like my kitchen shiny. I want shiny in the kitchen. So
yeah, so we went through a lot of effort to find the granite that we wanted. We drove into Alabama. Anyhow, they got a special order of 30-some slabs. We picked out 3 slabs, and we thought they were ours. And because the cabinets have pushed back, and it's got the cabinets have to be in before they can do the template for the granite. She finds out yesterday the lady sold one of her slabs of granite that she picked out. I mean, she personally went and invested a lot of time picking out, had the right grain in it for our big island. And the lady's like, "You didn't put down a deposit." And we're like, "Well, we would have paid for the whole thing ahead of time." So it's just, that's the way house building goes. Nothing's perfect. We're going to recover from it. Deb's got a plan, but man, just when you think you got something that's going to go perfectly, it doesn't.
we are still waiting, speaking of waiting, we're still waiting on the opener for the garage door, but isn't it pretty? It looks really good. I'm so glad that we went with the dark color. Pretty.
So there's our stoop.
I love these stoops.
Those were an add-on, and I'm going to turn the camera off so you don't see too much when we go in here, except for we're going to give you just a little sneak peek.
So this is the farmhouse sink that I've been wanting anyway. The first one came in broken. This one came in perfect condition. I'm excited about it anyway because I love the way it looks, but it's nice and it's deep and it's big, and the current farmhouse sink is so ridiculously small that it's aggravating to do anything. You splash water. So this is my super cool farmhouse sink that I don't think I'll mind doing dishes in.
And it is so heavy. I mean, I had to take back the one that was cracked to the UPS store, and I had to get help. I couldn't carry it in. And so we're not going to show any more of the kitchen because, again, it's just a sneak peek and this video is getting long. We wanted to show this, even though it's only 25% done. You're loving them?
I love them.
And talk a little bit about this thing behind me that's like different and why you wanted this.
So I love these cabinets, and they're similar, very similar to what we have in the existing farmhouse, but these are bigger and they're higher because the ceilings are higher, and they are just, I think they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful. And I don't like things on counters. I like a clean, open counter. So we specifically had this design where we can put our microwave here and get it off the counter. I know a lot of people put them above the stove and you vent that way, but I wanted a hood, a farmhouse hood. So I don't know about y'all, but the microwave we have over the hood and the existing farmhouse, it's a nice microwave, and I guess the concept is good, but it's loud. The fan in it is very loud. And the door, do you people have trouble with the door hitting you in the head? Because when we're getting things out of that microwave or putting things in, that door will hit me in the head all the time.
We're excited and looking for the rest of the cabinets to come here, because once they get here, then it's like he's got about one full day of install, and then they'll be in and things will start moving quickly. And we'll keep you posted along the way with that. But guys, we appreciate you sticking with us. We know it was a long video, but we felt that we needed to get that information out about the DRP program, and also let you guys know that we're full-time YouTube creators or content creators, I guess social media content creators, because we also have a Facebook. Just went over 100,000 followers on Facebook. We're at 131,000 on YouTube. And I forget what we are on TikTok and Instagram. So literally every day I have been filming something going on here around the farm, and poor Deb has just been editing her little fingers away, and it's kind of become our lifestyle now. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the videos. There's a lot more to come, and I'll throw it over to Deb to close us out.
Well, thank you for watching. We hope you guys have a wonderful, blessed day. Be kind to each other.
We'll catch you on the next one, guys.
Take care.